Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Global Radio and TV Live, and I am your host, Dr. Ravi. The number to call is 469 307 1642 1642. Well, thank you for listening to that eclectic music. That's what we play here normally from everything and anything around the world. I would like to thank our viewers in the USA and also in the order of viewership in United Kingdom, India, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, Canada, Thailand, Japan, Ukraine, China, Korea, Brazil, and Iraq. Now, you know the routine. If you haven't heard your country's name, just shoot us a note and we will include you in that list. Well, those of you who have been listening to this show know very well we talk about conspiracy theories and controversial topics all day long. I, as a scientist, require a scientific proof of all kinds of conspiracy theories we normally discuss here. We discussed the concept of existence of God, still controversial in some people's mind. We usually get into fist fight on that particular subject. And aliens, not the illegal aliens, but the real space aliens. And JFK assassination, that's another interesting topic. We always talked about it because I am here from Dallas. They are still talking about him. And all the controversial and conspiracy theories. There are extreme skeptics and firm believers. But today, ladies and gentlemen, the topic is not about any controversy, but it is about addiction, especially about alcohol and other similar substance abuse. Our featured guest is Keith Kay, who has written a book, Sustainable Recovery, demonstrating recovery from alcoholism is sustainable. Keith, welcome to Global Radio and TV Live.
Thank you, Ravi. I'm delighted to be here.
Very good. So, Keith, I was, hold on one second, I was going through some of the quotes from Ernest Hemingway. He said, I drink to make other people more interesting. In other words, there is a corollary. He said, an intelligent man is sometimes forced to be drunk to spend time with his fools. So, did you start drinking because you had to spend time with fools all around you?
I'm not sure about that. I started drinking from a very early age, and I had a very unnatural preoccupation with alcohol. I may have been born with it. I don't know. It, but it
So in
was
other
from a
words,
very early age, and that's one of the defining characteristics of an alcoholic, or indeed any substance abuser.
okay. So from alcoholism point of view, is it possible for someone to get or become an alcoholic at a later age?
I believe it is.
Have you
There's
have you seen in your interaction with other groups and others that people at very young age, like yourself, did not had any taste of alcohol, but they become alcoholic after the age of 30 or 40?
Yes, this is possible. Certainly, I
So
think anybody who encounters a life circumstance where they are drinking at some point may cross a line into the area of dependency. Certainly.
Ernest Hemingway, I believe he was not an alcoholic at a very young age. Apparently, he saw the world for what it is, and he wanted to look through the rose-colored glass, and perhaps he started drinking afterwards. Now, there is
Yes.
another quote that I want you to contemplate on. In wine, this is Benjamin Franklin, by the way. In wine, there is wisdom. In beer, there is freedom. In water, there is bacteria. So apparently,
That's great. Well, yeah, and I wouldn't argue or debate any of those statements. It's in excessive amounts of beer that one might lose freedom. It's in stupefying amounts of wine that wisdom might turn into something else. Yeah.
is that true? Okay, good. So tell our audience, how did your fascination for alcohol become so intimately associated with your early childhood? And you in your book are writing about going around the world with your parents. You lived outside of US and you had a lot of interesting experience. Is that true?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I was rather blessed to see some of Europe at a young age, and there were good and bad experiences with that. But I to get to the heart of your question, what, was there some event? There was, in fact. I think there's something that stuck in my mind at a young age, probably 13 or 14. I had just the right amount of alcohol to uh, lose what I wanted to lose and gain what I wanted to gain. Inhibitions, shyness were lost, and a sense of euphoria and a confidence seemed to be gained. And I think I refer to that as the perfect buzz. And I think I spent the better part of 2 decades trying unsuccessfulully to recreate that eventually on a daily basis.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that little problem there.
No, things happen.
Um, so the first drink of alcohol, I do remember when I was very young. I had probably, well, I was not that young, perhaps 18 or 19 years old. The first taste of alcohol. It was very bitter. It was burning through my throat, and of course, I have to force myself to drink that thing. And I did not have much of any fascination until after when I was 25 years old. When I was the graduate students, I came to America and I see everybody's drinking. Maybe I should try this. So I drank a couple of beers. Still didn't have much of any effect at all, and I actually didn't like it at all. So in one party I got drunk, and then I said that, well, I'm not going to get drunk like this. This is, see, I'm a control freak. I cannot
Okay.
give control to others. Okay,
Yeah.
so in any group, when I'm there, I want to make sure everybody else is drinking so that I can control them. Okay,
And that's a pretty normal response. And the normal drinker is somebody who can take it or leave it, drink socially, and perhaps might abhor the sensation of being over intoxicated and losing control. Certainly.
okay. Well, there is one other joke that I need to say this. Drew Carey. He said that, "Oh, you hate your job. Why didn't you say that earlier? There is a support group for that. It's called Everybody, and they meet at the bar." Okay. Um, what was that bothering you so much at the early part of your life that you have to drink and you have to? I don't know whether I use the word to to sleep or go to sleep with the effect of alcohol. What was that bothering you at the early age?
No, it's a good question. My parents divorced. I probably had, a slightly more than the average amount of drama in my life. But it really, I don't know if it was so much about that. I think, another type of control is actually achieved with alcohol, and it's sort of the ability to go inside and control my inner state. Of course, I'm using something outside myself with which to do it. But there's I guess a measure of control and uh, an effective anesthesia that, and as I grew up, the normal maturing process is full of opportunities to build a little character, mature, learn how to take responsibility, face the consequences of one's actions. And here's the biggie, that the alcoholic, and indeed the person suffering from a disease of addiction, the very common denominator, the ability to withstand emotional pain. And these are all things that, growing up, came down to having a choice.
Now,
I,
question: ability to withstand emotional pain.
as any normal, productive, healthy adult might be able
So
to.
you are saying that you are hiding behind the alcohol to numb the emotional pain.
Yeah, this is characteristic of
Now,
the
I
alcoholic,
was
and was certainly true in my case. Yeah.
reading through your book. Can you show our audience the book you have written, Sustainable Recovery? Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. I had the opportunity to read through most of it. I'm only left with few chapters towards the end. And I noticed that I do not know whether this is common. I noticed that your family, your mother was, after getting separated from your father, started drinking heavily, and you were watching this. But I don't think that was the cause of you drinking, because you started to drink much earlier than she started. Is that correct?
Uh, Chronologically in age or
Chronologically in timing.
in timing? No,
No,
no.
she was
She
drinking.
was, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
I see. Okay, so that's okay. But but
I started drinking obviously at a much younger age than she did in my early teens. Yeah,
so chronologically you started earlier than her.
yeah.
Um, I also noticed, there are some chapters about your mother getting sick in the hospital, and you were so distraught looking at her deathbed, and other details.
Yeah.
Did that make it even worse?
At some level, yeah. At a subconscious level, I was looking at her and I'm sure facing my own mortality, the reality of my own behavior, and this was about just a matter of months actually before I found my ultimate bottom. Uh, before I decided to change my life. Yeah.
Really? Well, F. Scott Fitzgerald, this is the one that I quote, and probably we had talked about this. Here is to alcohol the rose-colored glasses of life. Um, why is that some folks has to depend upon alcohol, and well, others are not? Now I don't know whether the percentage is increasing or decreasing. For example, if you try to entice me with a glass of beer or alcohol or wine or whatever, I wouldn't be okay. But some people will say, okay, let me do it. But they do to some extent. They are somewhat restrained. They don't wake up every night drinking. Now, for most part of 20, 30 years, I don't know how many years, every night you are drinking, right?
Yes.
Now, now that does, of course, have
In my adulthood.
consequences with respect to your personal health, and also with respect to your social mobility. Now,
Oh,
looking at
certainly across the board.
across the
Yes.
board.
Physically, sociologically. Yeah.
Now, looking at you, okay, right now, you look pretty good.
Well, thank you.
You should be acting in Hollywood or something.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. So now the question, therefore, is apparently the alcohol, once you stop drinking it, you were able to recover it. You didn't destroy your organs inside liver or anything else to the extent that it is not recoverable anymore. So, in other words, you probably stopped at the right time so that you can have a decent life thereafter. Is that correct?
Well, I'm thinking about that. I stopped at age 31, and I scarcely resembled the man you see sitting before you. And in the first 5 years of my recovery, my body underwent some very significant changes. I became health conscious and probably in the first few years in a zealous and perhaps overcompensatory way that people that have come to realize they've made some mistakes might. But I believe that there is a mind-body connection, and this is probably responsible for my. I'm very fortunate. I seem to have very good health at this point in my life.
Very good, very good. Well, we are coming up to a first break. So, what we are
Okay.
going to do, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and ask a few more questions about recovery and what is the 12-step program and how it helped,
Excellent.
and a few other questions relating to alcohol addiction and recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Global Radio and TV Live, and our featured guest is Keith Kay, and his book is Sustainable Recovery. When we come back, he's also going to tell us where to find this book. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Global Radio and TV Live, and you are listening to Keith Kay, author of the book Sustainable Recovery. Very fascinating book. I have the opportunity to read through it, and he has written a lot of interesting subject matters, how he recovered from alcoholism. Keith, welcome back to our second segment.
Thank you.
All right, now tell our audience, most of us who don't know anything about how to recover from alcoholism, what kind of programs do they have out there so that those who are really in the dumps has to recover now, because otherwise their life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, all of that is jeopardy. So tell our audience what kind of recovery programs are available out there.
Well, okay, it depends on the circumstances that we're talking about, I guess. Somebody who is dependent on alcohol or indeed any addictive drugs, be it opiates or benzodiazepines, those are the physically addictive drugs, would most likely need to undergo some sort of medically supervised withdrawal, which is, in the case of alcohol, the day-to-day dependence. Now, a medical man, the body does not want to work harder than it has to, and in the presence of alcohol, it's going to stop producing certain regulatory proteins and enzymes and substances, neurotransmitters and the like, because of the constant intake of a sedative. And okay, so withdraw that, literally take it away, you withdraw it, and the body goes into, well, they call it withdrawal. And it's like the body and the brain get into a little conversation. The analytical brain says, okay, I have to stop doing this or my life is going to explode. And the body kind of shoots back, well, I've been doing this for you for, 10, 20 years. And now you decide we're going to stop. Well, and the blood pressure goes off the chart, and the pulse and the anxiety goes through the roof. And the alcoholic is actually in a situation where they're in potential medical jeopardy. Now, the opiate addict, on the other hand, will tell you they're dying, and they're not going to literally die. However, alcohol withdrawal can be potentially life-threatening. So a medically supervised withdrawal in a rehab facility or a hospital is usually indicated. Beyond that, there comes the life change, the lifestyle change that is necessary, because the alcoholic, or indeed anyone suffering from a disease of addiction,
Yep.
has become habituated and set in a way of being that is conducive to altering their consciousness on a daily basis. So there needs to be an addressing of that. Now, the standard model, as I call it, has been 12-step recovery.
You're right.
And the first such, the pioneering group of this was Alcoholics Anonymous, formulated by two enlightened and inspired men about 80 years ago. This came about where one was very motivated, and he found himself out of town on business, kind of isolated, and in jeopardy of relapsing and sort of ruining everything that he'd worked for months to start building his life back. And kind of desperate to talk to somebody who might understand, he hooked up with this other guy who was not as motivated, but agreed, upon listening to this the motivated guy, that he knew what he was talking about. And they found a dynamic between them, and a sort of a magic, I guess, that they realized they had something that when they talked to each other and shared their experiences and had an honest desire to stop drinking, they found that they could support each other in this regard, and the rest, well, as we say today, it went viral. And they wrote a book about it. They carried this message to other sufferers with slow but steady success. They kind of figured out how to best accomplish this. They wrote a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And, fast forward to today, there are numerous chapters of Alcoholics Anonymous in every city, every town in this country of ours. It's worldwide. There are millions of people in various stages of recovery in this. So they realized they had, they sort of took it to the next level. They freely shared this with other groups. So, now at last count, there's over 100 different 12-step type groups. Their program is based on 12 suggested steps of recovery, which are very coherent, very progressive. Begins with a admission of the problem, kind of a brief consideration of the existence or the need to rely on something greater
Okay.
than oneself. Now,
Now,
Einstein said the mind that creates a problem is not capable of solving it. And in the simplest sense of the word, some sort of resource, then becomes necessary. I couldn't do it myself.
all right.
Put it very
Now,
simply.
if now you have not taken an alcoholic beverage for a long time now. I do not know about this particular question. Always wanted to ask.
Okay.
Once you go through the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and you have successfully completed it, you are alcohol free for the longest time. Are you not allowed to have a couple of drinks here and there?
Well, let me address the way that you stated that, because it would not be entirely accurate that one ever completes the Alcoholics Anonymous program. I'll have completed it, I guess, when I am under the ground.
Under the ground? What does that mean?
It's a, and I guess I need to make a disclaimer. Keith K is a pseudonym under which I wrote this book. I have not broken my anonymity, literally at the level of media. I do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous or represent it, other than as somebody who has extensive knowledge of it and a lot of experience with it. So, well, okay, here's my personal perspective, and this is why I wrote my book. I wouldn't alter my consciousness for anything. I have absolutely I am not the same man as I was previously, who drank on a daily basis, could not go a day without a drink. And here's the hard fact. I basically defined my view of reality and the world around me through the lens of that open bottle of vodka that was under the seat of my car. Okay.
But you haven't answered my question.
Okay.
The question is,
would I be allowed to have a couple drinks?
Yeah, exactly.
I would choose not to. I'm allowed to have a drink right now. There's nothing or no one stopping me, and
Now,
I have absolutely no desire to do that.
Okay, okay, you have no desire to do it. What about social drinking? Going to a Christmas party or some place where they're offering a glass of wine.
Yeah, I'm.
Are you not even interested?
Completely neutral. I go to all manner of social functions. If there's a long wait for a table at the restaurant, we could sit at the bar now? Great, let's go. And it doesn't faze me.
So you go and drink Diet Coke?
No.
Regular Coke?
No.
Water?
Yes. Club soda and
lime. Well, okay, all right, no problem. So in other words, you are saying that those who
this is my particular gift, and this is why I looked at, okay, how did I do this? How did I get to this point where, and I'll go to the meetings and I'll listen, and I'll sit and I'll hear people talk about struggling after weeks, months, years, decades. People are still struggling with the idea that they want to drink, occasionally do relapse, even after decades. So this, I'm clearly seeing that there is some degree of need to take this to the next level, to help people who have the strong desire to be free of this, as I am, to become upgraded versions of themselves, to be different people, and the people who could not say no to a drink.
So how long have you been alcohol free now? Since the
In,
last
in,
drink?
in January of 2015, I was 24 years sober.
That is an achievement by itself,
Well,
I
yeah.
would think. All right, now before we go to our next segment, because next segment we are going to talk about quantum physics. Now,
Okay.
our audience were wondering how this thing comes about, because he has written a lot of information in this book about quantum physics. So we are going to go into that. Um, Before that, I want you to tell our audience where can they find this book, Sustainable Recovery? Are they available in bookstores or as electronic version, Kindle version? Can you go ahead and tell us where they can find this?
Thank you, Ravi. I'd be happy to. The book is available on Amazon.com. So far, it's in paperback and Kindle versions,
Right.
and Amazon is giving a generous 10% discount right now. And I have a website that tells about the book, sustainablerecovery.org. And I have a Facebook page, Sustainable Recovery Book. And please check that out and like it if you're so inclined.
And so thank you so much for sending me this book. It's an exciting reading, and
Thank you.
it's riveting information. And I could not put this book down. Normally, I don't say this about many books I read and many guests who come here, but I found it a fascinating book. Now, we are now going to go to quantum physics, because
Okay.
you have written something about quantum theories and everything else. But before we do that, we are going to take a break, and we are going to get a quantum physics primer, okay, so that our audience can understand what is quantum physics is all about. Now, I found a very interesting and entertaining quantum physics lecture by Ellen DeGeneres. So let's go ahead and listen to her, and then we will come back. You are listening to Global Radio and TV Live, and my featured guest is Keith Kay, and his book is Sustainable Recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
About black holes. And the question number one, I would say, is what are black holes? Oh, I'm going to do all the work. All right. Luckily, I've put together a slideshow, and let's see the first slide. Here is a black hole. You can all see it, right? Wrong, you can't. They're invisible. No one has ever seen one. They're like an ugly puppy or a flattering polyester pantsuit. You'll never see one. It's impossible to see the black hole. The black hole is the center of every galaxy. This is our galaxy right here, and this is the Milky Way. How many of you knew that the center of the Milky Way was a black hole? Okay. How many of you thought that the center of the Milky Way was a creamy caramel? That's what I thought. Those are my people. Now, next slide, please. This is Albert Einstein. He did not believe in the existence of black holes. Apparently, he also did not believe in the existence of combs. Einstein thought it was impossible for a black hole to exist, but later scientists proved him wrong. Nice going, Einstein. That brings us to question number two. How are black holes formed? Black holes are formed when a star collapses. I'm sorry, I couldn't find an image of a star collapsing, so that's Jennifer Lawrence. When a star collapses, it creates a huge amount of gravitational pull, and gravity affects time. So the gravity next to a black hole.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Global Radio and TV Live. Our featured guest is Keith Kay. His book is Sustainable Recovery. Keith, welcome back to our third segment.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get right to it. After you gone through your recovery process, you dabbled into various aspects of improving the quality of your life, and also studying many different things. And you also put your effort into your nursing career and studied a lot of other things, biology, physics, bacteria, and everything else. And you also studied about what is out there other than this real life, or this life that is the reality? You call it three different worlds. Tell our audience what are those three different worlds that you are talking about in your book.
Well, I was looking for a way to explain where I evolved to in my journey, and I realized that we are, all of us, kind of conditioned by reality, by our upbringing, our educations, and so forth, that there is a world of our common understanding. It's what we see, hear, feel, taste, and smell with our five senses. Isaac Newton, set in motion a paradigm for our science, and that everything is measured and quantified. And if we have enough information, we can predict things in the physical world. And that's kind of how we are when we're young. We believe in magic and make believe and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, and then we kind of have to get on board with reality that these things are like the magician's tricks. They're done with smoke and mirrors, and what's real is real. And most people kind of settle into that and go through life. And
Michael,
I see. Okay, good. Very good.
and it's a materialistic, reductionist perspective. However, there's a whole other break from that. Sort of in contrast is the world of faith and belief and religion, and people kind of believe and compartmentalize that, perhaps into a trip to church every Sunday, where they believe in things that are supernatural, that things that are magical, and have a belief system perhaps based on an organized religion or spirituality or philosophy like Buddhism. And while these two ideas are somewhat opposed, people kind of reconcile them, and it fits together okay. And what I came to understand after studies in alternative healing. Okay, so there I am. I'm the Western medical nurse, and doesn't get any more biomechanical than the operating room. Delving, I had a couple of experiences that caught my attention and said, "There's something to that. I need to pursue this." And so I studied various modalities and educated myself and read voraciously and went to seminars and took something called polarity therapy studies to the associate's level. And, I became an energy healer, learned about this. And, okay, so I've got all this stuff going on, and I'm in recovery, and I'm a nurse, and there's just really nothing holding this together. I call it, there was nothing binding this stew of ideas. And until I started reading about the new physics and how there is a observer effect to this, that our consciousness is part of the equation here.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right, now let's go back and say what we talked about Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
And Albert
Einstein died opposing quantum physics.
Eventually, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right.
But he had to allow. He called the effects of non-locality, which is one of the properties of physics that I talk about in my discussion of the quantum model. I'm no physicist. I make that very clear in my book. But the one thing he would allow was that there was something he called spooky action at a distance.
So exactly what is a spooky action at a distance?
Well, okay, as I tried to reconcile the two opposing belief systems, I realized that there was something underlying all of reality that they're talking about now, a field, a matrix, a unifying energy matrix or lattice that overhangs all of reality, and is, in a sense, if you want to abstract a little bit, it could be responsible for all of these things that we used to call magical, used to call supernatural, used to call miraculous, and things like alternative healing, okay, which are based on energy that you can't see, you don't know how it works, but somehow it does. And that this has, three fundamental properties that seem to work in the context of recovery. I don't want to get too far from the matter at hand here. Okay, the first is that two objects, they could be some atomic particles or they could be two people in a relationship, but once they're in some sort of relationship, they remain in that relationship, and this is referred to as quantum entanglement. The other aspect of quantum entanglement is that it is not governed by any relationship of space or distance, and that is referred to as non-locality, or what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. What was happening to one photon in the laboratory was happening simultaneously to another, and not just really fast communication between the two, but it's been proven that there is some connection.
Yes, in your book, you are talking about the famous CIA scientist who did some work on lie detector tests, and he has connected that to the plants and other
other
inanimate or animate
a number
objects.
of examples that are sort of out there and known in the the cultural awareness at large. That would be what resulted from that was I believe a book called The Secret Life of Plants. A guy named Cleve Baxter, who had worked for the CIA. I believe it was the CIA. I think I had corrected that in the editing process.
CIA,
I started out believing it was the FBI and corrected myself. And then he went private and he became a consultant. He was one of the nation's foremost experts on lie detector tests, the polygraph, where a series of measurements are taken of a person as they are giving answers to questions, and it can read physiological stressors like your blood pressure spikes or your pulse goes up or your palm sweats, things like that. And so it can be determined that if somebody's stressed, they may be not telling the truth. So I guess he's burning the midnight oil one night, and he just gets this 2 a.m. He's getting a cup of coffee, and he has this wild idea. Hey, I'll hook the polygraph up to the plant that my secretary gave me. And so he goes ahead and does that, and then he goes and gets his coffee or something. And while he's doing in the other room, he gets the idea that, I can't ask the plant questions. I'll have to stress it somehow. So he decides that he's going to go light a match and hold it under one of the plant's leaves. So he comes back and he's looking for the matches, and he notices that the polygraph machine, it's got the little squiggly lines, and the plant is going wild, and he looks at the timeline, and it coincides exactly to, he hasn't gotten the match out yet, but the plant starts reacting
to his thought process.
He thinks about striking the match.
Now, is anybody has able to reproduce this result?
Yes, he actually made this his work after a point. He set up a laboratory. This has been reproduced scientifically with a scientific method. And it's been established that plants are aware of threats in their environment without having benefit of, as human beings do, 5 senses. They don't see it coming. They can't hear it. They don't smell.
Yeah.
So a dog comes into the room and a plant reacts. Yeah.
A thought comes into the room.
No, a dog will enter the room, and the houseplant is having a reaction to that. They also sense actually when not only other plants but other organisms. They've actually elicited responses in plants when boiling water is being poured down the drain and killing bacteria, in other parts of the house. Yeah,
and they were
pretty amazing stuff. So how does that happen? It would be a strong argument for some type of instantaneous communication other than what we're commonly understanding today.
Now, from the law of it is better for the plant not to have this information, don't you think?
Well, plants have to, yeah, I guess that
Because it
would be
is
a
it
line of
cannot
debate.
do
What's the plant going to do? The
uh,
plant does not have control over its environment
right.
the way a mammal would, certainly. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that.
so that is a little interesting scenario, but I'm really surprised that I have to go back and study that part of it. Um, anyway, so you know the one of the problem that people face whenever you bring a quantum physics or quantum related subject matter, even as you said that the Albert Einstein, even though he agreed it worked perfectly, he was never happy with quantum theory because it denied a reality of things when they were not being observed. For example, Albert Einstein can't accept quantum mechanics because I like to think the moon is there even if I am not looking at it.
Yeah,
That's what he
yeah,
said,
I
right?
recently read that he said that. Yeah,
He said that, right?
yeah.
So, so coming back to our life as it happens in this world, even the person who came up with the second theory after the Newtonian physics, he came up with the particle physics, and even he is now starting to worry about, oh my goodness, this is not making me very happy with the reality. In other words, the Newtonian physics is able to explain and define everything by physical and other laws, whereas quantum theory is now making it much more difficult for me unless I observe it. And as an observer, I'm also um, not destroying, but somewhat influencing the observation I am making. Therefore, the observation I am making is not really true because of the inherent effect of me observing it. So,
Subjectivity, sure.
subjectivity. Now, you said that you have got an interest in alternative medicine, holistic medicine, and everything else. But two things I want to ask you. One, we got interested in alternative medicine because the general medicine, the allopathic medicine, has made such an incredible improvement in quality of life over the years. Okay, it has increased the lifespan of human beings from 40 years to 80 to 90 years. Now, if we have reached our limit, perhaps, I do not know. But alternative medicine is not going to do much any good at this stage. What is, if somebody argues like that, what is your answer to this?
Well, yeah, there is much about our Western medical system that is truly miraculous and wonderful. And if I, fell off the roof and had a compound fracture or tib fib open, I want the best dynamic compression fracture management available, IV antibiotics. Yes, please bring it on. However, the leading cause of death in our health system is our health system. Okay, complications, people go into the hospital and have some other problem entirely, hospital-borne infections, and this sort of thing, and misdiagnosis, and we are living in a system where we have been conditioned to believe that we are entitled to better living through chemistry, and that our system will not fail us when in fact it does. It is nowadays it's basically a pharmaceutical insurance-driven industrial complex with a kind of a factory mentality, cookie cutter assembly line approach to healthcare that is based on symptom management at the expense of the underlying conditions. Okay, I was just talking to a coworker the other day, or some neurological condition is reasserting itself. They just want to give her pain pills instead of another
Treating her, yeah.
test. Yeah.
Well,
And there's a lot of good. I'm certainly not saying that our system and the amazingly dedicated men and women, colleagues I've known directly, who have inspired me and mentored me and taught me so much. No, we're very well-meaning, but there's a lot broken about our system, which basically came about as a result of, it was prophetic, the way these, studies were commissioned back in the 20s and 30s. The Flexner Report, basically saying we need to adopt this scientific approach like the Europeans are using. And they basically really tried to put the lid on homeopathy, osteopathy, the alternative approaches of the day that
Keith,
were nearly eradicated.
Keith, we have to take a break.
Okay.
Okay, and we will have to finish our course that we are taking from quantum mechanics course from Ellen DeGeneres. We will finish that because we have to. The conversation is getting very heavy. So we need to dilute that a little bit.
All right.
All right. Now, we will come back to quantum physics, and I want to ask you a few other questions about your idea about what the modern science is doing and not doing. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Global Radio and TV Live, and I am your host, Dr. Ravi, and we are also listening to our featured guest, Keith Kay, and his book is Sustainable Recovery. We will be right back.
Is so strong that the minute that you're
Yes.
next to a black hole would feel
There'll be
like
one more
1,000
segment?
years to us.
Yes.
Just like a minute
Okay,
explaining
great,
black
thanks.
holes feels like 1,000 years to us. Which leads us to question number 3. What's on Judge Judy right now? She sides with the plaintiff. He doesn't get a security deposit back. Don't bother switching the channels. All right, let's see the next slide. All right, just a little slide humor. Question number 4. Thank you. Slide humor. Question number 4. If we can't see them, how do we know that a black hole exists? Great question, Ellen. You can't see them, but scientists know black holes exist by looking at the way things around them act. Like if you see a tree bending, you know that it's windy. And if you see a middle-aged man driving a Corvette, you know he's divorced. Poor guy, whoever he is. We just use him to... Congratulations, you're all now experts on black holes. Tune in tomorrow to see if the wheel lands on Sneezing Panda Video or the invention of the steam engine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, little break from our heavy conversation here. Keith, welcome back to Global Radio. This is our last segment. Let's go ahead and talk about what we were discussing before. That is, the modern medicine, in spite of all the advancements it made, people are still not happy with it because it hasn't solved all the problems. And people have even telling that the homeopathy is a national health hazard. You must have heard that regarding homeopathy and many other medicine. But the fact of the matter is, if it is not for the modern medicine, our quality of life won't be any good. Don't you agree? I mean,
I do agree.
Okay, all right. Now, once we agree that,
there's a lot we could do to improve the delivery system, but yes, our science, and we live in an age of many blessings, Robbie. I certainly agree.
Okay, now anything that is coming up with it doesn't have the modern, actually the scientific community, if it doesn't agree to this. Now you have a lot of guys who are necessarily not a scientist, who have not put the effort to understand all the aspects of life, science, physics, math and biology and everything else. If they are going to come up with ideas that this is how this is done, which is usually most of them are a clinical trial of one person. That's it. Okay, that's how they are writing books and everything else. Okay, I had this, I did this, and therefore this is it. Okay, now naturally, as a scientist and as a nurse and medical background, you understand that the double-blind trials are the only way to test
is the gold standard of the
gold standard. It doesn't matter; it's an alternative medicine.
Of the FDA, certainly.
Well, not the FDA. Let's forget FDA. It should be the gold standard for good scientific practice. Because if you don't agree with that, or I mean,
well, no, I'm not going to dispute that. But in terms of drug trials, for example, we know that in addition, the ethical considerations involved would have any person participating signing a very extensive informed consent in which all the possible side effects are, so here's, okay, where the placebo effect would enter. If the possible side effects listed are, dry mouth, constipation, headache. Well, occasionally people get constipation, headaches, and dry mouth. And if they happen to coincide with while they were in a drug trial, they're going to say, hey, I'm having a side effect. I got the real drug. I feel better already. So the placebo effect, which is closely related to this observer effect, then becomes something that you can't really deny. Now, the metaphor that I use, okay, and people may call me to task, Keith, you're not a quantum physicist. The Apollo astronauts who flew to the moon in their spacecraft did not design, construct, engineer, test. No, they were just really good pilots, yet they successfully flew to the moon and back, okay? And, I'm just taking some of the basic concepts and applying them to, they are part and parcel of what I have done, what I am living proof of. And I see other people, doing the same kind of personal transformation. The only thing I'm doing differently is adapting these principles and ideas for the explicit purpose to help the particular needs, circumstances, and conditions of those suffering from diseases of addiction.
Very interesting. This argument that you proposed is based upon your experience and what you have achieved, and your background training in science and nursing and medicine.
Somebody had to be first.
Somebody has to be first. Yes, I totally agree with that particular point. That worked for you very well. Okay, how do you suggest that it is going to work for others? What is that you want to tell our audience that we haven't discussed? That what you have learned from your life, what you have written in your book, how can it help both people who are suffering from alcoholism and then recovering, and also
I
normal
believe it
folks?
can, and my approach is to take a layer above and beyond the traditional 12-step recovery, to add this approach with an understanding of how we can achieve our fullest potential, and basically in the quantum model, okay, there are unlimited possibilities, okay. I connect myself to the version of me, the Keith of my dreams, in which, and a year ago, okay, I was enacting this. I was in the process of writing a book, editing, getting it published. I wanted to go on talk shows with enlightened people like yourself, and carry this message, and then go forward, and I'm in the process of becoming an expert in the area of recovery. And a year ago I was connecting myself to this very moment, this very reality that that I'm enacting. And to be in love with life, I have to understand that I can connect myself in my thoughts, which will then serve to send a message to my body, which will recondition itself. And I will actually start to have the body, the physical reality of that version of me. And this serves to draw this reality to me. I know this is all kind of heavy quantum stuff, but you told me this is the last segment, so I got to kind of get it out there. This is
One more question.
Sure.
Are you still playing drums?
I do play the drums a little bit. Yeah, it's just something I will always love. There's something wonderful about music that is very basic to all of us, and I'm grateful that was part of my past. A very colorful part. I was a very serious drummer in my youth. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, did drumming has any relationship to things that you are doing now?
Other than
entertainment?
Other than being something that made my life go the way it went? Probably not.
Well, I thought that there's a significant connection I noticed. Quantum physics, quantum theory, and wave theory is all methodical, spaced, harmonic drumming activity,
Vibration, in a
vibrations.
sense, yeah.
So perhaps you were very early on interested in this particular area and you became a drummer for the very reason. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think it was, in a sense, a quest for a spirituality. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Very good. Coming back to in the last few minutes, I want to ask you, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to tell our audience?
Oh, there's so much. What I want to say to anybody who may be questioning or knows that they have an addictive process, an addictive way of life, that there is a solution. There is much hope. There is much potential for changing your life in any way you decide you want to. I would say that honesty, understanding that there is a problem is very necessary. Belief that you can change, and this is true of anybody, no matter what your circumstances may be. It is possible to change and grow and improve, and simply a willingness to roll up your sleeves and do a little work.
And do
You can
you
start by
offer?
reading my book.
Do you read your book? Yes. Do you offer any consulting service or anything, or people, or do you deal with any of that sort of helping others by
No, not directly. I'm there. There is no profit motive behind what I'm doing. If some books are sold, it's much more about getting the information into the hands of people that would benefit from it. And as I said, I wrote my book under a pseudonym. It's not about personal aggrandizement in any way, shape, or form. I'm not out to get famous or renowned. I really just have gotten myself into a way of life that I love. And once one does that, giving back is paramount.
Excellent. Okay. Now go ahead and tell our audience one last time. Show them the book and see where they can find it, and what are they available in local bookstores or wherever books are sold?
Sustainable Recovery is available on Amazon.com under my pseudonym of Keith K. And I have a website, sustainablerecovery.org. That's one word, sustainablerecovery.org. And I'm on Facebook under Keith K. And Sustainable Recovery Book is the book page. And thank you very much, Ravi, for giving me an opportunity to get the word out and talk about this recovery, which is my passion and my desire to carry this message to others. I appreciate it.
Oh, most welcome. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Keith K, and his book is Sustainable Recovery, available in fine bookstores. And it's a very interesting reading. I read through most of it, only 3 more chapters are left. So, what I would like to do is to go ahead and read those 3 and come back and do another one with you and go through more heady subjects.
I would be honored. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And please stay on the line for a few more seconds.